Ahoy VC, welcome to the Personal Oasis. This is the Blind Island. I'm your host Isaac, and today we're going to be starting off a series following the Beach Boys discography from 1962 to 1977, starting today with Surfin Safari. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the review today, and just getting started with this series on my favorite band, the Beach Boys. I know that seems silly to have the Beach Boys be my favorite band. They probably don't even have enough full albums that I truly love, but their music, I just love their music so much. And how they were willing to try new things and change for a long period of time, up until, I believe, 1977, where kind of is the cutoff point for the Beach Boys after that. Not to say that they didn't come out with some good material. In fact, their 2012 Return album was very good, and for being older guys, they really still knew how to rock it and rip it. But to me, that golden period between 1962 and 77 is when the Beach Boys were just trying new things, pushing the boundaries, and also pushing what studio production could be for an American band. So that's why I want to really follow their discography from them. I was also inspired by a guy that I've just started following. His username is funnyface26, name is Jason, and he's been doing a Dylanology series where he's been going through the discography of Bob Dylan. And Bob Dylan is one of my top 3 favorite artists of all time, and his reviews have been on point, fantastic. Even when I don't necessarily agree with him on certain things, he is so well thought out and articulate that I can't help but love his material. So go check him out, and also check out Giggins. He's been in the VC for a very long time, but his material on the Beach Boys is extensive and comprehensive. That guy just knows everything about the Beach Boys inside and out. So I was inspired by those two guys to try this series and just follow an artist for a specific period of time. That doesn't mean that I won't be posting different types of videos in between these. It just means that I'm going to be going on this series for a while. And then we're getting started, of course, with their debut album, 1962's Surfin Safari. And this was produced by Murray and Brian Wilson primarily, even though the actual credits go to a different person. They primarily were the ones that were running the show on here. And it was really great seeing Brian Wilson just starting to learn how to produce. You can definitely hear that he is a novice, and that's pretty much the general vibe of this album in general, is it's a novelty. And the album peaked at number 32 on the Billboard Hot 100, and they were picked up after their single Surfin' became a local hit, a regional national hit. So around the West Coast, it was a big hit. So Capitol picked them up, and they became a pretty big hit maker for them through the years, as would be seen. But this was a nice starting point for the boys. And another big thing that was a big difference for this band was that they were actually performing their own instruments, which can sometimes be to the detriment of the group. A lot of other rock bands at the time were using session musicians, and the Beach Boys decided that they were going to be playing their own instruments, and that's a really cool thing. So, to get a little bit more into, now that we've had a little bit of the history, let's get a little bit more into the actual music. So it starts off with the huge hit Surfin' Safari, and I mean, how many people know that song? It's burned into our collective consciousness as Americans. And you think of sun, fun, good times, you think of Surfin' Safari. And it's pretty amazing that a band on their first tryout could come out with something so huge and have such a big impact. And there's a lot of young, innocent vibes that are coming from this album in general. It's youthful, it's bubbling, and it's a very poppy record. with a little bit of a garage element. I would definitely say out of all their albums, this one is probably the most muddy and sounds a little bit more like it was played in a tin shack. The production value wasn't quite up to par as the regular the other subsequent albums would be in the future. And you know, there's Surfin Safari, 409, Surfin, and also I would say that their cover of Moondog, which is an instrumental track on here, is really, really great. Done by one of the very first groups to ever be labeled as a surf rock group. And the Beach Boys really took the surf rock vibe to the entire nation. So we wouldn't be knowing about people like Dick Dale and the Lively Ones until we found out about these guys. So for that, I'm very, very grateful. This album reminds me a lot of the Beatles' Please Please Me, and I know that some people may take that as very sacrilegious, but it's just a bunch of young guys getting together, playing rock and roll, and just trying to do their best job. I don't think that it's as polished as Please Please Me, but the fact that they did a lot of their own songs and wrote a lot of their own material is pretty impressive. I think that their vocals are a little bit more on the outdated, and it definitely sounds more like 50s doo-wop than they would moving forward. It's an album that's full of potential, but it doesn't quite reach the heights that I think they were trying to reach for or trying to hit. A lot of good pop fun on this album, but overall it kind of falls a little flat in comparison to the heights of their future. I believe that if they had only come out with this record, maybe a couple of more, they would be seen like a group like Jan and Dean or the Ripcords, sought after, enjoyed as, you know, novel classics, but nothing to write home about. And that is not saying anything bad about it, it just means that it's not quite there yet. They have a lot to be polishing off here. I also believe that there are a lot of throwaway songs on here, like Chug-a-Lug, even 10 Little Indians. They just don't hit those heights that the lead single like Surfin' Safari does. They're just trying to find enough material to fill out a two-sided album. And speaking of which, this album goes by like that. It is only 24 minutes in length, and it really seems as though they are just trying to really fill out any time that they possibly can other than their big singles. So they're not quite thinking an album perspective yet, but they're getting there, and I thoroughly enjoy their introductory album to the world, and I think that this is a good introductory album for some other Beach Boys people who have never listened to it before. I think that you'll find yourself being very wistful and nostalgic about it, and overall, it's a very fine record. I give this one a 3 out of 5. It's average, a little bit above for the classic cuts that are on here, but nothing really to write home about. So what do you guys think of Surfin' Safari by the Beach Boys? Is it a masterpiece of 60s pop, or is it just a good rock and roll record, or is it absolute trash? You let me know in the comments below, and I hope that you guys have a great day on your own personal oasis. Cheers.